Call this meeting to order. This is the May 28th, 2026 meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission, and we'll begin with roll call. Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Franks.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Orr is present. Commissioner Mann.
Here.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
All right, we're all here and ready. So now's the time for citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until that item comes up. For all other citizens, we'd like to hear from you now. Fill out a speaker card, hand it to staff, come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comment to 2 minutes. Do we have anybody? I see none. All right. Go to the approval of the minutes. Item number 1, consideration of approval of the April 23rd, 2026 FMPC minutes. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Have a,
It's okay. They're just too fast. They're too fast. I can't get your microphone on.
we have a proper motion and a second. And does anybody like to pull any of these items off? Or any edits to the minutes? No? All right, begin with roll call voting. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay is absent, Commissioner Orr votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Ayes have it. The April minutes are approved. Item number 2, consideration of approval of items 3 through 6 and 8 through 12 on the consent agenda. Have a motion?
Move for approval.
All right. Second.
Second.
Have a proper motion and second. Does anybody like to pull an item off consent? I see none. We'll vote. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Orr votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
All right, ayes have it. The consent agenda is approved. Item number 7, consideration of Resolution 2026-36, a resolution approving revised development plan for Tuckaway PUD subdivision with 2 modifications of development standards sidewalks for the property located west of Lewisburg Pike and south of Bowman Road, located at 1190 Lewisburg Pike. Staff?
Thank you. The applicant has submitted a revision to the Tuckaway PUD subdivision that includes 2 modification of standard requests for required sidewalk connections. The previous revision to the development plan permitted the development of a church campus on the property with the existing house to remain used as administrative office space. The PUD also has 1 approved MOS for the removal of the required cross-access connection to the southern parcel. The plan remains in line with the recommendations of Envision Franklin. No new square footage or additional entitlements are being requested with this revision. There is a reference in the plans to a MOS number 2 for deferral of northern cross access connection until phase 3 of the plan. Staff has determined that this MOS is no longer needed, and the applicant has requested to remove that MOS from consideration. So as such, in my presentation and in the accompanying resolution, MOS number 3 in the plans is referred to as MOS number 2, and MOS number 4 in the plans is referred to as MOS number 3. Everyone got that?
Something like that.
We can review as needed. So for MOS number 2, the applicant is requesting to allow the required pedestrian connection to the front door only, and to permit alternate materials such as mulch for the internal sidewalk, and that sidewalk construction be deferred until the installation of the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike. The zoning ordinance requires a sidewalk connection to be provided between each building's main entrance and the nearest street or internal drive. Sidewalks are defined as a paved path for pedestrians, so any alternate material such as mulch or gravel would not be considered a sidewalk. Installation of a mulch path is not an acceptable substitute for a sidewalk, either for ADA accessibility or for compliance with the City of Franklin development standards. Any deferral for construction of a required sidewalk should be understood to be for a sidewalk as defined by the zoning ordinance. In the event a sidewalk requirement is waived, a mulch path may be installed in its place, but cannot be considered as a sidewalk for the purpose of national code compliance or city development standards. There's also not a regulatory system or mechanism in place for deferral of construction of the sidewalk, except through the next modification of standards. So therefore, staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 2. MOS number 3 is the applicant is requesting to defer construction of the required sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike until such time that Lewisburg Pike is widened for a period of 10 years, or for a period of 10 years, whichever occurs first. Sidewalk construction along the frontage of developing properties is intended to be met by the developing property owner at the time of their development, except in limited circumstances where fees in lieu may be applied. The zoning ordinance states that fees in lieu of a required public sidewalk may occur only when the timing of the installation of the sidewalk would result in its removal shortly thereafter due to a fully funded street widening, streetscape project, or other capital improvement project. Lewisburg Pike along the frontage of this property does not meet this criteria. Additionally, it is not clear when the 10-year clock is intended to start, or by what mechanism the city would compel the developer to submit plans for and commence construction of the required sidewalk prior to the suggested deadline. In the event that the MOS number 3 is approved, construction of the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike frontage will require the approval of a revised site plan prior to construction. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 3. And because staff is recommending disapproval of both MOS requests as written, we are recommending disapproval of the overall development plan revision. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody from the public like to comment on this item? Seeing none, have an applicant?
Hello, my name is Greg Gamble. I'm representing Fellowship Bible Church, and I have an applicant presentation. Joey, do I know what I'm doing here? Oh.
Forgot about that.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all for giving us this opportunity tonight. Modification of standards number 1 was approved with the original development plan, and it removed a cross-connection requirement here to the south that would eventually connect to the neighborhood. That was really at our neighbor's request, and that was granted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Modification of standards 2 has been removed, and modification of standards 3 has been renamed. I'm going to come back to the modification of standards number 2 on the next slide, but for modification of standards 3, this is for delaying the construction of the sidewalk on Lewisburg Pike until Lewisburg Pike is improved or a period of 10 years. Love to hear you discuss and vote on this. Staff is concerned about a mechanism by which this would be enforced, and it was recommended by Jimmy Wiseman, and Amy and I still need to have a conversation with him, but recommended by him today that the Planning Commission could make a condition of approval that this go to BOMA with a development agreement. And that a development agreement would be more of a tool by which the city of Franklin could make sure that, one, a date is set as to when that sidewalk would have to be installed. What does 10 years mean? And would give them, I guess, more enforcement. We're certainly open to that. My client's open to that. If a development agreement can be tied to this modification of standards, that would be great. Regarding modification of standards number 2, in this request, we have a requirement to construct a sidewalk alongside this entrance drive that would tie back to the sidewalk that would be constructed when Lewisburg Pike is built someday. The comment has been made several times about ADA accessibility. This sidewalk connecting from the church campus out to Lewisburg Pike is not required to be ADA accessible. ADA accessibility must occur from the ADA parking spaces to the front door. If you drive through a lot of the neighborhoods in Franklin where we have sidewalks along the street, if a street is 10% slope, the sidewalk's going to be 10% slope. Anything greater than 5% slope is required to be a ramp if it's ADA accessible. So you can imagine on this 7 and 8% drive that goes to the church's campus, how many 30-foot ramp sections and landings we would have to have in order to make this an ADA accessible sidewalk to get from Lewisburg Pike back to the church. The church on its own said, we want to be behind the tree line. We want to be behind the existing house. We want to use the existing house for our church offices. And that's because they want the campus to feel like a retreat. They don't want it to feel like it's the grand poopah on top of the hill. It's pushed off of Lewisburg Pike. It's back off of Lewisburg Pike. So for the church to have not just a mulch trail along the road, but other places where there could be mulch trails to create this park-like environment, that's their goal. That's what they're trying to achieve. If they built a concrete sidewalk today, it doesn't connect to anything. On Lewisburg Pike, now I know that there would be one day, and we've acknowledged that through this modification of standards. And we're not trying to get out of creating pedestrian connectivity. We're not trying to get out of creating ADA accessibility from the parking spaces to the doors that are around this campus. We've highlighted those here in blue. These are the accessible. These are the accessible routes that are shown here in blue around the building. We can accommodate that, and we know that we can accommodate that. But the sidewalk to Lewisburg Pike is not needed to be that connection. Have I left anything out? Happy to answer any questions that you may have. We'll be available.
I'm sorry, I can't pull up my stuff because this is not working. What's the distance of that sidewalk?
1,500 feet.
1,500 linear feet.
Let's get a motion that we can discuss.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Let's get, do you have a motion on this project?
Oh, well, no.
Anyone? To the board and mayor
To the
alderman?
Board of Mayor, I'll
right.
recommend favorable approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Have a proper motion that's second. We'll move on to the modification of standards and then come back to the main motion. So MOS number 2 on our list is request to allow required pedestrian connection to the front door only, permit alternate materials such as mulch for the internal sidewalk. Sidewalk construction to be deferred until the installation of the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike. And that would be during that roadway improvement project.
Chair, if I might, the whole discussion is, this motion is MOS 2 and 3 though, right? That's all. Am I not correct? Yeah.
You still have to make a recommendation for the development plan revision.
Okay.
It is the resolution.
The-
The MOSs are just a component of it,
Okay.
but you're correct. Nothing else about the plan is changing except for these two
That's what I'm saying. That's all that's
So,
changing. Right. Because if I'm reading correctly, staff is recommending that this entire, because the entire thing before us is only MOS 2 and 3. Am I not correct? Okay.
Yes.
So recommended.
Because
that's
we've
what-
recommended disapproval of the two MOSs, and there's nothing about the plan that changes
That's changing,
otherwise.
so that's all we're, right.
That's why we've recommended disapproval of the
Right.
entire
So that's what I'm
plan.
saying. That's it.
Because if the whole, I will say, if the whole development plan revision ends up getting disapproved by the board, mayor, and alderman, it does just result back
It reverts
to
back, right.
the previous.
That's what I'm saying, because, okay, so I'm just sort of saying, because it's like we're getting ready to take something, it's, by what you were saying to me, it seemed like we were considering something in addition, but that's all we're considering. I just want to make sure that we're correct on that. Okay.
But
Then I was
the
correct
two
on
roll back up into the whole.
into the whole, which is, so we're not considering anything separate is what I'm saying, because they already have an approved plan. They've just come before us with two things tonight. Right, so it's not gonna stop what's going on. We're just considering, okay. So I guess what I wanted to point out is, we approved this plan already, okay? And it had modifications of standards, which we went through all of those. And within this plan, it said that they were gonna have sidewalks. And sidewalks are, as defined, paved paths for pedestrians. And that's modification of standard number 2. And there's gonna have connections between these buildings where people would walk on paved paths. And now, to me, it seems like we went through all of this, right, and this was approved, and now they're coming back and say, instead of doing paved paths for pedestrians, now they want to do like mulch and all of that. And I understand that it's not required.
But before you get too deep into it, can we get a motion in a second? On
That
this
we've already-
one?
No, that's for the
We
main.
already have a-
He's
No,
in it
that's
for the modification
just the
standard
main.
number
We gotta
2.
do it on the MOS.
On the
I thought
MOS.
the whole thing we were considering was, okay, never mind.
Same thing as usual, main motion, then we're taking each one individually, but we haven't made a motion on MOS number 2.
Right. So
But
we need to do
it's
that.
for
and then
discussion.
discuss
Okay,
it.
because it says consideration of resolution approving a revised development plan.
And that main motion has been made for approval, first
Oh,
and
the
second.
revised plan.
You
Yeah.
haven't
Okay, so
voted
there
on
are
the
two
main
things.
motion.
So there are 2 things before us. I thought there was only one thing before us. Never mind. Okay.
No, you're fine. So,
Ooh, Lord.
do we have a motion on MOS number 2?
Whew, gee.
Got modification standard number 2.
What was it?
Motion to approve.
Recommend approval,
Oh.
okay?
Do I have a second on that?
Lord help us.
All right, we have a proper motion and a second, and that is to approve. Now, discussion on MOS number 2.
Okay, so I'll go back to that. So
Okay.
even though it's not required by law that these connections between buildings be ADA accessible, I think they should be. I think that someone who is in a wheelchair or whatever, I think since we approve sidewalks, that they should be sidewalks, paved paths. So I'm not going to support MOS number 2. I'll just stop then. Jeez, I'm confused as all. Obviously, I think they should be. We approved it that way. I think they should be. That's how I'm done. Okay.
Chairman, would you mind if I make a comment real quick?
Let's get a little more discussion, and then we'll refer back to you. So,
Well, I have a question that might also. Can you show me what sidewalk you're proposing to not construct right now? And then
Yes,
help
it
me
is-
understand this mulch path connection line you have shown on the screen.
Okay, all of the blue, those are concrete sidewalks connecting the buildings.
Yep.
All the paths from parking to building doors are concrete. What we're talking about is not constructing the concrete sidewalk from this area right here at the front of the existing house out to Lewisburg Pike.
That's what I thought.
And then we're suggesting that we could have a mulch path across the field, and maybe it's circular, maybe it's more, it's a trail. It could go along the road. It could come across Lewisburg Pike, but giving a place for the patrons or the people who are attending the church, give them a place, an outdoor space, kind of like a park, where they'd have a place that they could walk and play.
If I can make one comment to that question,
Go ahead.
that'd be okay.
Sure.
The other piece of it is in the back, and this is a comment for you too, Miss Allen, but is all that is ADA accessible. Every bit of that on the back. We're talking about from Lewisburg Pike, where there's not a sidewalk now, all the way to our back buildings, which is 1,500 linear feet. We're just talking about that section, which has not been required to be ADA approved and has a massive slope up the hill and back down. People are not going to be walking that, especially when they're not walking Lewisburg Pike, State Highway, all the traffic, et cetera, and there's no sidewalks there.
Thanks.
So to your question, that's the concern is from Lewisburg Pike only, all the way to the back buildings, not just to the house in
Yep.
front, Mrs. Cross's house, but all the way back.
So I'm not supportive of MOS request number 2, only because there's 2 parts to it. I'm fine with omitting the sidewalk from Lewisburg to the front door, but it says, and also to permit the use of alternative materials such as mulch in lieu of. That's the piece that, if you want to put that mulch connection, that's fine too, but the way it's written, I'm not going to support doing mulch in lieu of the paved sidewalk. So I'm not going to support MOS request number 2. I guess if I would make an amendment, I'll maybe make an amendment to MOS request number 2 to approve removing the sidewalk from Lewisburg Pike to the front door, but not making alternative pedestrian materials such as mulch in lieu of paved sidewalk.
well, that would be,
That's number
the mulch
3.
materials would be a temporary
Right.
sidewalk
It's not-
until the actual concrete sidewalk is built, and Lewisburg is built. The last sentence would be the concrete sidewalk, if I understand this correctly.
Number 3 is along those.
Number 3 is the 1,500
You,
feet.
you were not
So
talking
you-
about that. It's from the house down to Lewisburg along the access drive. The very last sentence of the MOS number 2 would be that construction would be deferred until Lewisburg gets improved. So it will be concrete.
Yeah, and I'm
Just
fine with,
not
I'm
now.
fine if it's concrete.
You're asking for it to be mulch permanently.
No, no.
Okay.
Not
Uh,
permanent.
Can we get the applicant back up to explain their intentions here? Because it sounds like the way this is written is a little bit confusing. Tell us what you want to build now. Tell us what you're wanting to build later.
So the zoning ordinance requires, and it's from here, a sidewalk from the back building all along the entrance drive, all the way out to Lewisburg Pike. We are proposing that that mulch path not be required to be installed until the Lewisburg Pike is constructed.
But it would be mulch instead of.
Mulch
Okay,
is what we're proposing.
so it is right then.
Which I'm not supportive of.
If I might make a comment on that as well, the reason that the mulch portion came up was because we came up with some ideas on how to do sidewalks, some other things. We asked staff and some aldermen, got some feedback individually to say, hey, we'd like for this not to be a requirement in the short term for us to build a sidewalk when there's not one out there. Some of the feedback we got was, well, would you be willing to do a mulch path instead? And we said, well, sure, if that's something that would be helpful. But if you don't want the mulch path, we don't have to do the mulch path. That's something we could choose to do internally as
I mean,
a walking path or whatever.
I guess I'm fine if you do a mulch path, but it's not going to be considered a sidewalk. It's not in lieu of, so we're just not going to do the sidewalk.
Right.
And then if
That's
you
right.
want to do a mulch path, but I don't want that confusion to be that we're substituting mulch for
Yeah,
concrete.
and that is
That's not-
confusion
that's
too.
not what-
Just, no, it's exactly what they're doing.
Not permanent, oh, excuse me. We out of order.
Too many microphones.
Sidewalk would not be able to
Staff?
be installed until the sidewalk around Lewisburg Pike is
Why?
But
Why would we?
Just to clarify the
Yeah.
the MOS and then some other
Please do.
things. So the applicant is asking to utilize alternate materials for the sidewalk and for that sidewalk to be installed once the sidewalk along Lewisburg is installed. Now, and just to reiterate, the city does not classify mulch or gravel as a sidewalk. It has to be paved concrete. So to Commissioner Mann's point, even if it were to be recommended to the board and aldermen, it would still not meet the city standards and classification or definition of a required sidewalk. Now, the applicant is free to do mulch paths and gravel paths just as they wish, but that would not go towards their required sidewalks for internal, external connectivity.
all right, thanks for that. That should clear up confusion, I hope. Commissioner
Yeah,
Williamson?
just a comment, because I know there's a couple of things about sidewalks and ADA accessibility. And if you can put up the slide that shows the blue and the things, like, as it was pointed out, all those have to be ADA compliant. When we look at sidewalks on streets and everything, ADA compliance on those, there's a very specific slope and cross slope. Most sidewalks in the city in Tennessee are never going to be ADA. It's just the slope, it has to be just right on there. So I just wanted to clarify that even if they did that sidewalk out to the street, likely, even though it might be paved, it's probably not going to be technically ADA accessible from the slopes. So just want to say that. And then I think too on this one, you know, if they're waiting for Lewisburg Pike or this 10 years to hit, they put a sidewalk in and then they come back and put a sidewalk by definition, which will be concrete, to there, you know, we're getting the sidewalks. It's just kind of a time delay. And I think, you know, we're planning commission. We have to think long term. Long term, we're going to get probably something better if we're waiting for road improvements. Hey, if they don't happen in 10 years, it's going to be built anyway. So I think we're getting what we want. Maybe just the timeline is shifting to hopefully get road improvements. I think that makes sense from a planning point of view. Yeah, would I like it like next year? Yeah, probably. You know, but also, there's not gonna be too many people taking strollers or bikes or sending their kids out there when there's not a sidewalk on that road anyways. So that's my viewpoint from it.
So let's revisit what number 2 is saying again. If we approve that, that means there will not be a sidewalk from Lewisburg paralleling the access drive all the way to the existing house. Ever.
That's correct.
No, I'm sorry, point of order. If you approve MOS number 2, you're approving them to delay the sidewalk installation until a sidewalk on Lewisburg Pike is constructed.
But we're
There's no
also
timeline on that?
Well,
It's just,
we would also be allowing whatever they build in to not be concrete.
correct. So if you approve it flat out, you're approving that it not be built until Lewisburg Pike sidewalk is built, and you're allowing existing and alternate pedestrian
It's not temporary.
material such as mulch in lieu of a paved sidewalk.
Yeah.
The way it is written.
Chair,
So,
Mike?
Commissioner
so you
Allen.
make an
It's,
amendment.
it's in listening to what everybody's saying, and then with, I was gonna call you Salaji, I'm sorry, Commissioner Williamson, I'm sorry. Maybe to reach, something that's best for maybe everybody, including the church, and compromising. And what you said was right. Getting the sidewalk, because Lord knows I'd love to have it on my street, never happened, but if we could tie in maybe, which is a compromise with the church, sounds like they're even willing to make, where we did delay it and send a contract, maybe a proposed contract to the Board of Mayor and Alderman, propose it, that it's delayed for 10 years, whichever comes first, the sidewalk, and have a concrete sidewalk. You have them built in tandem, right? Concrete sidewalk from the building to Lewisburg Pike at the same time that they build the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike. Right, I think that would be the best compromise, because as you're saying, Chair, if we approve what's on the floor now, there would be forever a mulch sidewalk, right?
That's what they were asking for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what asking for.
They're asking for a mulch forever sidewalk.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Forever.
The way
Yes.
the language is written.
The way it's
that's
written
what they're
now.
asking.
Well, it needs to be
That's not what they
changed.
meant, I'm really sorry.
Well,
but-
yeah, they got it wrong.
Right,
So-
but if we could maybe send it that way, where we have a concrete sidewalk, but they don't build it until they build the one along Lewisburg Pike, I think it would probably be the best. Well,
Commissioner
anyway.
Harrison.
A little clarification there, though. They're not only asking, they're asking to relocate the sidewalk from the front building away from the main drive and do an alternative path to Lewisburg Pike. So it's not only changing materials, it's changing location.
Right. But what I would propose is that we go back to the way we had approved it, forever concrete, but in tandem, in time wise, with when it's built along Lewisburg Pike, which is a compromise for all of us. Just what I would.
So you're saying that you'll approve the relocation of the path, but it has to be concrete.
Has to be concrete, which I think also would satisfy also the city too. Right. So it's a compromise all the way around for all of us. Just my suggestion. Commissioner Williamson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
I think you illustrated that, that long-term paved, and I thank you for clarifying, all of you, for what it's actually saying. Just for the reason that, you have a mulch path, you can walk on it. You can't push a lot of wheeled vehicles on that very easily, so.
So,
My client would agree to getting rid of the word mulch and would agree to delaying the construction of a sidewalk until the time that Lewisburg Pike sidewalk is constructed.
So there's a motion for approval of this
Yeah.
and a second.
but it needs to be pulled in. So right now I have a motion and a second to approve it as it's written. And the motion was made by Commissioner Franks. Is that something you would consider amending or withdraw? Okay. And
So it's withdrawn?
she takes her second.
So it's withdrawn. Is there a motion?
So now,
I would move that. Okay, I would move that. But modification of a standard number 2 that we amended to have concrete sidewalk constructed with the new location as proposed by the applicant, but to not be constructed until the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike is constructed.
Well, we already approved the sidewalk on the main boulevard down to Lewisburg Pike. So why would we allow them to move it anywhere else? If we've already got it, if it's already been approved to run a sidewalk now, I totally agree, it doesn't need to be handicap accessible. All that's great through there, but, you know, as far as delaying it or as far as adding a mulch path, you can put a mulch walking trail anywhere you want to out there. You don't need our approval for that, I wouldn't think.
Okay.
We're coming
Well,
back to the plan.
let's go back to the motion that you are trying to make it amend.
So staff, does that motion incorporate what we just talked about?
Would you reread?
I will
what
try to
she-
reiterate, I did not write it down, but I will
Please,
try to
okay.
reiterate what you said, that you're recommending approval with the following amendments.
Modification number 2,
That the material be required to be concrete
Concrete.
for the sidewalk, and you are permitting the alternative location as shown on the plan
yes,
for the sidewalk location.
from the.
So therefore, not along the existing road, but in the area that they've shown
From
there.
right, from the building
No.
to
And that, hold on, and that the sidewalk not be required to be installed until such a time that the sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike is installed.
right, because we're going to address that in modification number 3.
Yes, so that was the motion, we do not have a second yet.
I'll second that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, we have a motion with amending the language. Would you mind reading that one more time?
Oh my gosh, I just said it out loud, I didn't write it down.
No, we got it.
You got it? Okay,
Okay, got you.
okay, here we go.
Question. Are you ready to comment?
I need a second.
We
You got a second?
got a motion
that's
and a
how it was
second,
originally,
and we
yeah.
know the language.
Yeah.
Because it was
You wanna
approved like an
discuss it?
original.
So, and my discussion is, why would you want them to run out in the middle of nowhere, a concrete path, when all they want to do is add a mulch path?
It was already
We're
approved.
already satisfied with them delaying the concrete along the main entrance path. So part of that modification is allow them to hold off on putting that concrete sidewalk in until Lewisburg Pike's developed,
And it really should parallel the driveway.
and it parallels the driveway.
It does.
But force them to put a concrete path in a site, in an area that's off that hillside versus a mulch path, it's more of a walking trail and it's more temporary
Sure.
to the
So-
final.
Would you like to amend your motion to restrict the
requirement.
location of this concrete sidewalk to be parallel to the driveway when Lewisburg is improved?
I'm giving the applicant what they asked for. So that's totally up to them. Commissioner Williamson, I'll get the floor to you. I was just giving them what they asked for.
Do you want concrete?
We're fine with the concrete path going to the front door of the house. Whenever you have perpendicular parking, you're required to have parking or sidewalks in front of it. But if the requirement were to have that sidewalk from the front of the house out to Lewisburg Pike, concrete when Lewisburg Pike's built, we're fine.
Right, okay, so we're good.
But you
Yeah.
want it running parallel with the drive.
It can run parallel with the drive,
Not with the orange.
not with the orange. We're fine with it.
That's what,
We're
fine with it going parallel.
In your
that's
motion.
what you said.
Front door of the house to Lewisburg Pike, it can be parallel to the drive, we're
Okay,
fine.
so they said it could be okay.
So do you want to amend your motion?
Amend it to parallel.
Do you want me to say parallel to?
Parallel to the road is fine.
Yes, please.
I mean it to be parallel with the drive.
And you
And
second.
you second.
All
okay.
right. We have what
I'm
we
just
think
agreeable
is-
tonight.
What we believe is an approved or a proper motion and a second. Let's vote. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay is absent. Commissioner Orr votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
All right, the ayes have it. MOS number 2 as corrected and amended is approved. Recommended for approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Thank you.
Yes. MOS number 3, request to defer construction of the required sidewalk along Lewisburg Pike until the time that Lewisburg Pike is widened for a period of 10 years, whichever occurs first.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Well, gotta have a motion first.
I move,
I would like to make a motion to move to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the condition that they enter into a performance agreement for the sidewalk.
All right,
Development
second
agreement.
that
Thank you.
motion.
all right.
Discussion. I think that the applicant said that he had a discussion today, and they were saying something about entering into a contract. They had a specific date because there's a concern about monitoring this or whatever. Did we, or did you just cover that with your?
And I believe the development agreement. he
Okay,
just
that's it. I
included,
just want to
so
make sure we were.
covered that stuff.
All right, so that, we're good.
All right. Any other discussion on MOS number 3 as corrected, amended? No? All right, let's vote. And this is a motion to approve for the Board and Mayor and Alderman.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey's absent. Commissioner Orr votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Ayes have it. MOS number 3 is voted to approve recommendation to the Board and Mayor and Alderman. Let's roll back to the main motion, which is the consideration of these 2 MOSs to be incorporated into the already approved development plan. Do we have any additional discussion on these? We already have proper motion and second. All right, let's vote. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey's absent. Commissioner Orr votes aye. Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
All right, the ayes have it. Item number 7 is recommended approval to the Board, Mayor, and Alderman with the 2 modification of standards. Finally. Any other business?
No.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
All right, have a proper motion and adjournment. Let's vote. Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey's absent. Commissioner Orr votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
All right. Adjourned.